Hey everybody, welcome to another video review. Now this is of the Master Replicas version of the Darth Maul lightsaber. And as you can see, this is the signature edition. So, previously we had taken a look at the EFX signature version, which they called the Legend version. And that came quite a few years after this one. This is one of the actually older ones that came out. I'm showing you what it looks like as it would come out of the box. Darth Maul presents some pretty unique challenges and problems, as I think we all now understand. Let me start twirling this around, hopefully. No problems, it'll clear. Looks like it will. So, what are the problems? Well, obviously the length is pretty significant. It's just very, very hard to review, to showcase because of its length. And Master Replicas must have also considered this problem when they were creating it. In almost all previous examples, they created a mirror base that could completely fit the lightsaber in question, and then they would also supply an acrylic case that would cover the entire base with the lightsaber inside it. But with the Darth Maul lightsaber, because again of this huge length, they found that challenging. They would have to make the base quite a bit longer, and of course they would have to make the acrylic case quite a bit larger as well. In addition, there was a bit of a problem because it was one of the earlier releases. The signature plaque was not one of the nice low rectangular versions that we're used to seeing, but instead it's the silver plaque, which is a lot more square, had a lot more height, which means then that by necessity they had to make the legs that are holding the lightsaber much taller in order to give you space to put the actual signature plaque. So when you put all of that together, you've created a situation where you needed to make the base much longer. You needed to have an acrylic case that was also longer, but to make matters worse, it also had to be much taller, again, in order to accommodate the signature plaque. And so, in the interests of expediency, they decided to not give you the acrylic case, and they also just gave you a small, generic base, about the same size actually, as you would expect for a regular lightsaber, and they called it a day, okay? And so because of that, they kind of came under, I think rightly, a bit of criticism for those decisions, because this kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. You have in front of you one of the most imposing lightsabers, but instead you decided to give it a very sort of half-assed presentation. And frankly, it just looks a little bit cheap. It looks a little bit silly. We have a base that's woefully undersized for the majesty of the hilt in front of us. We don't even have a acrylic case, which leaves it kind of naked. And it was a wholly unsatisfactory solution to the problem. And in hindsight, it just simply would have been better to charge more money and give the better base and give the acrylic case. And considering that this was one of the earlier releases that Master Replicas did, which we can corroborate with the year of manufacture, as well as the fact that the certificate of authenticity is in the beige envelope, they certainly weren't shy about charging at that time. A signature edition of, for instance, the dual signature Vader lightsaber, that would have, that would have essentially, that would have run, I think, like $5.99. And so just charge a few hundred extra dollars, would be much more preferable than this. But the bottom line is that they didn't do that. And so I'm reviewing this kind of with that in mind and showing you what, it would have looked like as a collector all those decades ago. You open it up and you would have, basically been asked to display it like this. So now it's a testament to the quality of the lightsaber that still looks fantastic. When you look at the shiny silver plaque with the amazing reflection, you can still see my, you can still see my camera phone holder and my purple gloves. It's just like a mirror sheen right over here, and then you can see the base, and the lightsaber itself looks, gorgeous, which I'll get to in a second. It's all machined metal, of course. So in any case, it still looks great, but it could be so much more. And so it should come as no surprise that a lot of collectors, when they got it, essentially ditched the base, and they had their own custom mirror base and acrylic case made for them. This was occurring both in the United States and across the pond in the UK. So I did actually get a custom case fabricated for me from a local professional, and I'm going to show that at the end of the video. But for here, I wanted to just kind of, basically start the review by kind of giving you what it's supposed to look like out of the box, how it's supposed to be displayed out of the box. So this is, again, what it looks like. You can see the, very interesting that the acrylic legs are actually on the mirror base itself. This is the only time when this happened. And of course, they did this because they knew that there would be actually no case to worry about, right? And you can see kind of the way that it's done. You can see the step right here, which is very interesting. And that's to give plenty of room to put the silver signature plaque in this space right here, okay? And then again, the fact that the lightsaber is just kind of, over the end of the base. That's sort of the odd little look that we have here, okay? All right, so I'm going to stop the video, and then after the cut, we're going to take a look at the certificate of authenticity and paperwork, and then look at the plaque, and then we will, again, go through all of the close-ups of this lightsaber, talk a little bit more about it, and then I'll show it off in its custom display case. We'll see the difference and impact, the difference in impact that makes when you have it properly displayed in the proper case, the proper base. So I'll see you guys after the cut. Welcome back, everybody, after the cut. Let's start with the signature plaque. Look at how beautiful the mirror is. This is like almost as good as a mirror. You can see the reflection completely. Let's take a look here. Mr. Ray Park, signature edition 904 out of 1500. You can see the Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, Darth Maul lightsaber, and then Mr. Park's signature. Very, very nice signature. Not just a little scribble, but full of character. I've become a bit of a signature aficionado in the recent 6 months or so because I've obtained so many of them. This is a really nice signature, so I appreciate Ray Park for doing that. I did polish it up. It did come actually pretty heavily tarnished, as the silver will. This is indeed kind of how you can put the plaque on here. It doesn't matter whether you do it this way or you actually do it this way, for instance. It's essentially the same. I think technically, I believe you are supposed to actually affix it like this. So they did it correctly. You can see the sticker down here where you fix it. So I did polish this plaque, not perfectly, but the best I could. You can see that it looks really nice, definitely reflective. I actually covered the signature with Scotch tape and then used Brasso to gently polish until this was gleaming bright. I may have to repeat that with my James Earl Jones Empire Strikes Back plaque. I've noticed it becoming a little more tarnished. It's been about a year, so these are all things to consider. But this is an absolutely beautiful display plaque, and were it not for the tarnishing, I wish that we had kept this and kept the material. It's just so much classier than the rectangular plastic brushed silver that they finally settled on. But so much classier. But unfortunately, the tarnishing is a big problem. But I wish that they could have used maybe an alternative type of metal, maybe stainless steel or something, but maintain sort of the metal signature. I really, really love this. And I don't, it's a pain in the butt to have to, polish it every once in a while to get the tarnish off. But I really do prefer this. I really like it a lot. But, on the flip side, if we had stuck with that, then it would be a lot harder to get this custom signature plaques to match up. So I guess there's a pro and a con to everything. So here is the paperwork. As usual, you can see the limited warranty, which we will put aside. This is, of course, the registration card, or is this the invitation? It's the invitation to the Collector Society. This then would be the registration card. Again, this is a brochure on products that were offered. You can always tell that when you have something like this. This is one of the earlier releases. $600 for the signature edition Darth Vader dual signature. You've seen this many times if you've followed my reviews. And then here's the certificate of authenticity. It is a thing of beauty. You can see the gold embossing. Master Replicas, very classy from beginning to end. Extremely heavy stock paper, all in gold. Star Wars Signature Edition official prop replicas. And of course, it's a triptych, so you open it up. There's the 3 parts, and you can see the Master Replicas rice paper with the logo, and then the little bit of white to protect the inside. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And then here is Mr. Park himself signing. Love the picture. And then opening it up, again, you have the standard certificate of authenticity. And notice that for this signature edition, it mentions the Darth Maul lightsaber specifically, signed by Ray Park. And then you can see that they mention Darth Maul by name. So this is a very special certificate of authenticity, not a generic one, which we see quite a bit more. It mentions Star Wars The Phantom Menace, all the way down, hand signed by Ray Park, witnessed by Master Replicas representative at the time of the signing. Unique and original on each plaque, therefore no 2 signatures will be identical. They even talk about the exact copies, 1,500 copies worldwide. Then you have the gold seal and then the signature of Howard Rothman and Scott Vogel. So this is a very, very nice certificate of authenticity. I wish that all of them were like that. But as you can see, the best quality was in the beginning. And then over here, we take a look at the actual lightsaber, and I'm just going to slowly scroll up so that you can read what they have to say about this hilt. Look at the very bottom. It says the Master Replicas model was created from a direct study of the hero lightsabers of the Lucasfilm archive. In order to add value and durability to the unique replica, however, we have produced Maul's lightsaber in machine and die-cast metals rather than resin. We hope that you enjoy it. So, they recognize and they acknowledge that the actual prop was actually in resin due to weight and safety issues. But then when they came to give you this amazing replica, they went with what they knew. They went with what they did best, which is to give you actual metal, actual machined metal, certain die cast parts where they had to make it so, and it stands the test of time all these years later, and it's appreciated. I really love these early master replica certificates of authenticity. I add so much class to the collectible, with the pictures just amazing, and I just really wish that they had continued to do this for basically the rest of the line, Okay, so now that we have that, we're going to move this aside to the best of our abilities. This is going to be a little bit tricky because now it's time to show you the replica up close and personal. It's extraordinarily heavy. Okay, I mean, like all master replicas, lightsabers are heavy, but this is made out of metal, and it's actually approximately double the length of any other hilt. And so this is actually quite heavy. I just think it's just kind of striking because I just reviewed the EFX Legend lightsaber, which is metal which is a resin with the metal ends, and it feels way lighter compared to this, way less sturdy. And the funny thing is, I had said before that I wasn't a big fan of this hilt for a couple of reasons, mainly because number one, on pictures, it looked like it was made out of resin, ironically. So this metallic hilt, I thought looked like resin, but let me tell you, when you put this next to the actual resin lightsaber from EFX, then you can clearly tell the difference in quality and how this is actually machined metal and not resin at all. Okay, and I think that when you start looking at the close-up of this, you're going to see that difference real quick. So the first thing I like to do is just to kind of showcase, if I can. We're gonna have to move it a little bit. So here you can see clearly signature edition and 2003 Master Replicas LLC and the Lucasfilm. So I'm going to tilt this a certain way so you can definitely see that. It's really hard for me to do because it's such a long lightsaber, and then we're going to flip the end just like so. You can see that the Made in China sticker is still on this end. Okay, so there you have it. Now let's kind of look at the ends here. So you can see that this is not battle damaged compared to the EFX version. This is actually machined and about as clean as you can reasonably expect. Look at the fact that this is metal. You can clearly see that this is metal and the difference in quality that makes. Nice and smooth. You can see the rubber O-ring on the sides. Look at the knurling of the buttons. This is classic Master Replicas quality all the way throughout. You can see the glass used right here. Look at the sharp edges, the engraved details on the metal. Here's the cover tech with the screw. I mean, look at the ribbing. Look at how clean the ribbing is because it's metal. There's just absolutely, hopefully you can just see this as I'm rotating it. There just is absolutely no comparison in quality between the two. Look at that. Look at this. Backing up a little bit so you can see the details. Moving along, we're past the midline now. You know, the design of this hilt is, again, pretty basic. It's just repetition. I mean, how many red do you need? You got 1, 2, 3, you got 4 of these reds. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, the modular aspect of this is pretty painfully apparent. You see the same type of patterns. No chrome. So again, you know, compared to obviously like a Count Dooku, a Mace Windu, you even the later, Obi-Wans and Anakins. I mean, this is, admittedly a pretty plain design, but still, the quality is there. You can clearly see again, just the tightness of it. So in comparing this to, again, the resin copy, it's just not even fair. The one criticism is that the O-rings are very thin, and depending on how you properly stored it and took care of it, they can often snap as the rubber just degenerates. Now, I bought this from a gentleman in the UK, and he's an adult owner, and he obviously took care of this meticulously, and more importantly, he probably lived in a part of the UK that, was not too humid, because I have to say that these rubber O-rings, at least to my eyes, they look fine, as good as new, and I don't have any worries about that at all. So just sort of moving it a little bit further back, so it's a little bit easier to see the panoramic view of this thing. Again, not too much to say other than how much nicer this is. And really, the major difference is just how clean it is. And I don't mean the fact that it's not battle damaged. I just mean the fact that, the metal means that there's no real casting per se. Maybe there's some die cast parts. I can't really tell what parts are die cast and what part is machined. But the bottom line is that you don't have any of that resin flash, right? The resin flash, the pock marks, the pinholes, just nothing that you would associate with resin. And on top of that, just poorly cast resin is the major problem. There's a lot of statues, and kits. Excuse me, I sneezed there. There's a lot of statues and kits that are resin, and the details are just exquisite. So it's not just the fact that, the EFX Legends version is made out of resin. It's the fact that the casting was just so lazy and so sloppy. That's the part that's really kind of hard to take, And of course, there really isn't an issue with that. That doesn't really exist when you have metal like this, okay? It just feels cleaner, sharper, and the gleam of the light off of it, you can clearly tell this is, this is aluminum, this is metal, versus the very flat, dull paint application of the resin version. So I'm going to put this back for now, temporarily. And we're going to cut, and I'm going to show this again in the custom case that I have fabricated, so you can kind of appreciate what that looks like. So I'll see you guys after the break. All right, guys, welcome back after the break. So here we are. Let's step back for a panoramic shot. So this is indeed what this looks like in its proper case. You can see how long the mirror base is. You can see that the acrylic legs have to be increased up, and that it's just high enough for you to have the signature plaque, but still have some space above it, and that the lightsaber actually clears it by a nice amount. Look above, you can see this acrylic case completely encloses the mirror base. We can see the reflection at the bottom. And then let's take a step back here. So I think you'll agree that this is actually a much classier display. It just makes a world of difference. From here you can see that, not too deep, reasonable. Looking on this side as well. Most of the time, these bases and acrylic cases, they don't cost more than about $150, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. But this is 2023, back then it would have been even cheaper, well worth the amount. Apologize for some of the stuff you see in the background, like the watermelon and all that stuff. This is a very, very long, a long case, can only be displayed in so many different ways. But yeah, just take a look at this, just quite remarkable. As they say, quite remarkable. Very good. And of course, we'll look at the other side. I may actually make one more video just trying to compare the two lightsabers. I'm not sure whether I want to make it as a separate video or just add it on to this one, but I'll decide. Again, there just may simply not be, there might not be anything left to say, you know, like I might just put the two next to each other. I don't think there's enough maybe for me to talk about to justify an entirely, you know, new video, other than kind of just to show you what that resin looks like compared to the machine metal of the master replicas and show you that there's really no comparison. But yeah, this is just a couple minutes to show you what it looks like, the way it's supposed to be displayed, and just how amazing this is. So I have to say, you know, I haven't come up with my final ranking of all of the lightsaber hilts yet. I still have a few more reviews left to go. But I had, you know, saved this for last. This was literally the second to last lightsaber I bought and the last signature version that I bought. I didn't think, you know, that it would be like this impressive, but honestly, like when you see this in its own display case, properly displayed, it just looks magnificent. And I had thought that this would definitely be in my so-called, you know, fourth tier. So I separate the master replicas in tiers of five tiers of 5. There's 25 total. I thought this would be somewhere in my fourth tier, you know, just because, again, for all the reasons I gave earlier in my review, how I wasn't all that excited about this. But when you see it, you know, in person, and I don't know how, like I mentioned, my battle damaged, you know, Darth Maul review, I don't know how well this photographs or, you know, videos, but in person, it definitely looks like metal. It's definitely not resin at all. And maybe, you know, I feel that more acutely because, you know, I have it, you know, side by side essentially with an actual resin version. This one, you know, that one being from EFX, but absolutely in person, it's 100% metallic. Now, granted, it doesn't have any of the bling, like I mentioned, that the other sabers that are on, you know, have. Like, you know, it's not chrome plated. There's no gold plating. There's no 24 karat gold plating. You know, the design is not particularly, you know, striking, but it is metal, you know. But again, it loses out when you compare it to things like the Anakin, you know, Attack of the Clones with the chrome, the gold accents of Ian McDiarmid's, you know, Darth Sidious lightsaber, the gold accents of Samuel L. Jackson's Mace Windu. So it doesn't have any of that. But I can tell you that in person, you definitely feel and you can see the metal, you know. And I think I might be moving it up. You know, I don't think it's no longer going to be in the bottom half, I think, of lightsabers. I'm actually very pleasantly surprised and pleased with how beautiful this looks. You know, it does actually make a statement purely based on its size. You know, the size, the length, and instead of looking awkward and silly when you have it on the, you know, the short truncated base with no case, once you house it in its natural environment in the long mirror base with a nice, you know, case encompassing it with that beautiful silver signature display plaque and Ray Park signature, it just makes quite a statement. So that's kind of like my last thought showing this to you. Very, very happy and pleasantly surprised by the Master Replicas Darth Maul Signature Edition. So until then, do take care. I might add a postscript if I decide to put the EFX version next to it. So I'll decide whether that's going to be a separate video or whether there's going to be a little postscript. So we'll see when I stitch all this together. Okay, take care, bye-bye. Hey, welcome back. I'm going to add this as a postscript to my Master Replicas Darth Maul Signature Edition review. I don't really think I can, you know, devote an entire video to just the differences because it's so obvious and striking. So I basically decided to put the two next to each other. I think it's actually pretty interesting because obviously the EFX version, the so-called Legend Edition, the signature plaque is obviously way smaller profile. It's a rectangle like all of them are. And so because of that, the foot that the lightsaber rests on is, also much lower profile. So that works really well because when you take the picture head on, the Master Replicas version is going to be a little bit higher. So you can kind of very clearly see the difference between the two. So a few things. Number one, I think it's sort of a push when you compare the legend plaque with the original Master Replicas signature plaque. One is polished silver, the other one is like gold. This one in front of me here is not going to tarnish, which is really nice. But I kind of like the plaque over there a little bit better. I think of the two, I think probably the gold accent is a little bit better. I still prefer that a little bit more. Although when you look at the signature, it just seems like the signature for the Master Replicas version, like in my opinion, is a little bit better. I don't know, there just seems to be a little bit more going on there. You can definitely tell that it's the same guy, but the R here seems a little bit more simple, whereas he had a little bit more going on back there. So it seems like Ray Park's signature changed slightly, between the two. Again, you can clearly see that it's the same and yet a little bit different. But I like the signature from the Master Replicas a little bit more than the EFX one, but I like the plaque probably just a bit more than that one, but it's close, okay? In terms of the base, of course, the base is terrible for the Master Replicas one. The new base, it's equivalent, but the nod has to go to the EFX base. At least they had the decency to give you the entire base for the entire lightsaber from end to end. And then they have the little lip here, so you can have a custom case, which I commissioned to put over it. So, the base, even though it's not a mirror base, at least they had the decency to give you the entire length rather than giving you this little short, truncated version that Master Replicas did. Okay, so much for that. In terms of the certificates of authenticity, I think, those are very similar. The picture of Mr. Park is about the same in both. I think they're both equally, wonderful. But I do give the nod to the certificate from Master Replicas. It's just so classy. The quality is so much better. EFX is a little bit larger. It's a rectangle, it's a square versus like a rectangle. So EFX sort of wins a little bit more on size, but in overall quality and classiness, the Master Replicas is untouchable in terms of that certificate of authenticity. It's like the old school signature edition certificate of authenticity is so classy, it's just unbelievable. Okay, so we've talked about the base, talked about the signature, talked about the plaques. Now we just gotta get into the lightsaber. What can we say? Look at this. I'm gonna back up over here. Just take a look at this. Just like from far away view, you can clearly tell the metallic sheen of the Master Replicas in the background versus just sort of the kind of the flat, dull, matte look of the EFX version. So just from far away, I hope you can see that there's a clear distinction. Easily you can tell which one is more metallic looking, which one looks more real. Again, in terms of the hilt, at the ends, at the emitter ends, that's metal, but everything in between is resin. You can clearly see that. This is, of course, way more weathered. You can see that over here versus here, right? So also the hole is a lot more pronounced on both sides. Over here you can see much wider hole versus the smaller one on the Master Replica side. And then here we go. So here we go again. Look at this. Look at that. Look at this. Look at this stuff. Look at that. Look at that resin flash versus the same here. So hopefully you can clearly tell the difference in quality versus here. Look at an example of this, okay, versus a similar example over here. And that's with the acrylic in the way. You know, that's with the acrylic in the way, but you can just clearly tell. Check out the master replicas over here. Now look at the EFX version. Same section over here. You know, so here versus here. Here versus here. I mean, there really is no comparison as you're going for the close views. The O-rings, to be fair, are a little bit thicker and sturdier on the EFX version. But look at the terrible resin in between the ribs. Look at this, and then here, look at the Master Replicas version. It's, I mean, you know, it's just insane. So just all of the one-to-one comparisons from, you know, the emitter versus the knobs. Look at the knobs here versus the knobs here. Especially this gray knob. It just looks like a blob of resin versus the actual knurling of the actual knob here. Look at this here versus these guys here on the metal. Just insane. There's not even actually any knurling, as you can see. You know, this here is so soft. They only give you a little bit of the knurling. Over here, just smooth, you know, versus the Master Replicas, which is all the way around, right? You can tell that they have the grooves all the way around. So, you can definitely tell. Wow, that was actually pretty depressing. I don't think I have to show much more. The color, the details, all of that. Just absolutely terrible. Now, to be fair, this is way more limited. This is one of only 500. That, as you can see, is one of 1,500. So this is actually, you know, 3 times as available, okay, as this. But yet, at the end of the day, you know, this is still the more valuable, the superior one by far. If you're going to choose which one to buy, go for the Master Replica signature version. It's going to be about 1,500 and change. You may find a better deal here or there. This one I got for 1,000, and you know, definitely not worth that, not by a long shot, despite the limitation. But if you're a lightsaber completionist like me, well, okay, you know, you're gonna want to get this because it is, you know, an official EFX release. But yeah, I like to say up front, just so that there's no like, you know, no drama. You don't have to wait with bated breath. I mean, this bad boy right here, definitely number 30. Okay, number 30, worst hilt in my entire collection. Especially when you consider the price point, the limitation, the pedigree, all of that. A resin copy, just not good. Again, maybe if you wanted to get a stunt saber, like EFX was selling a couple of those stunt sabers, maybe that would be a different standard. But not to give you this under the legend classification. They just made a very bad mistake. You know, I know that their philosophy was different from Master Replicas. You can tell actually based on what they said in their certificates of authenticity, where, you know, they both talked about what those props were like, and, you know, EFX said, we're going to just give you exactly what, what the prop is like. And Master Replica said, we can't do that, for the quality, for the durability, for the true legend status, we have to give you the idealized version. We have to give you Darth Maul's lightsaber, not a resin, copy. And I think that Master Replicas definitely made the right decision. Absolutely no doubt. So there you go. One last picture of the two side by side. Until next time, do take care.